family was calling my other sisters and other family members. And so they were coming to say goodbye again because I wasn't probably going to make it. And they were very clear that I was probably not going to make it because the damage was so extensive.
Hi, my name is Amber Cavanagh, living on Vancouver Island in Canada. On December 22nd, 2021, at 40, I was enjoying life, recovering from COVID, and preparing for Christmas. The day was spent making gingerbread houses and sharing family time. That night, while watching a Christmas movie, I suddenly experienced a severe headache, likely from a carotid dissection on my left side. I went to bed early but woke up around 4:30 a.m., thinking I was dreaming. The stroke paralyzed my right side, and I struggled to realize my situation. I stood up, and when I put weight on my legs, my right side gave out, and I crumbled to the ground. Unaware of the situation, I didn't even think it was a stroke. It turned out to be a completed MCA ischemic stroke, affecting my MCA too. Early detection can prevent or reverse deficits, but mine went unnoticed, causing a complete stroke and a secondary frontal lobe break. Falling to the ground, I thought I was dreaming and couldn't comprehend my paralysis. Unable to move or speak, I attempted to crawl to the living room to reach my husband. The struggle to move across the floor, hindered by a wall, felt like an extended period, though it was likely only a couple of minutes. I banged hard on the wall 5 times, desperately trying to get attention. Startled, my husband had initially been awakened when I fell out of bed, but hearing nothing else, he went back to sleep. Meanwhile, I woke up my mom, and as they came into the room, my husband attempted to lift me, struggling with the challenge of lifting dead weight. He suspected I was having a stroke and rushed me to the hospital. Still conscious, I was quickly brought into triage, where the paramedics seemed oblivious to my condition. A nurse, however, recognized the severity and called a stroke code, initiating a rapid response. In the CT scan, they identified the carotid dissection and the extensive stroke. Although I remained in my body, I felt somewhat disconnected, overhearing discussions about potential outcomes. Despite the dire situation, they decided to administer TPA, a clot-busting medication with a 50% success rate but also a high instant death rate. Typically, improvement is swift, but in my case, nothing changed. Paralyzed and unresponsive to stimuli, I felt the weight of the situation unfold. And because it didn't work, there's only one other option, which is brain surgery, and they didn't do it at the hospital in my town. So they needed to life flight me, but there was a storm coming, and the helicopter didn't want to come. Finally, they agreed, and the helicopter comes, and my family was calling my other sisters and other family members, and so they were coming to say goodbye again because I wasn't probably going to make it. It was early in the morning, still maybe 9 o'clock, and I do remember being pushed towards the helicopter, going in the helicopter, and my husband was allowed to come in the life flight. Normally, nobody's allowed, but again, they thought I was going to die before I got there, and so they didn't want me to die alone. We got in the helicopter, they take off. And when we got up to a certain height, the sun came in the window and hit my face. As soon as the sun hit my face, that was it, I was on the other side. My body was still clinging to life, and I could see it. I could see my husband, I could see my body, but I didn't have a lot of attachment to my body. It was like I closed my eyes and opened them, and I was in this beautiful garden. The grass and the water were not like anything I've ever felt in my entire life. I think I wasted more time feeling my feet in the grass than actually making this decision to come back. I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I was there to make a decision, and nobody was going to make it for me. So I think my experience was a little different than a lot of people's because I didn't feel super pushed either way. Everything kind of glowed with like essentially the light of God. There's just love that radiates from everything, and I wasn't alone either. My guides, who I had gotten to know very well since I accepted my gifts, were there. They were sitting on a bench that I kind of would sit with them for a bit and then get up and walk around. Very strangely, I guess for some people, my husband was there, and my kids were there. I didn't talk to them, but again, my belief even before the stroke was that our higher selves are always on the other side. They're always there, connected to us but also connected to all the other lives we're living. I saw a couple of my animals that have passed, and actually, I saw one that hadn't passed that unbeknownst to me, she would pass before I got out of the hospital. My mother-in-law, who passed away in 2011, and then to the side, there was a huge group of people, dozens and dozens, maybe even hundreds. I thought, well, that's weird. I don't think I know them. But then, as I focused, I realized it was all of my other lives there to support me. We're all kind of one, so we can appear separate, but we're not actually separate. My guides were super helpful, telling me I needed to decide whether to go back to the physical world or stay on the other side. I was very aware that the beautiful garden, although part of the other side, is like an area where you can go when you're still human or attached to a human body. I knew that if I died, I would go to a different place than the garden. Interestingly, I looked like the best version of me. At 40, I looked 25, wearing a beautiful white eyelet dress, no wrinkles, and no heaviness or pain, despite my physical body still being in the helicopter, clinging to life for brain surgery at the next hospital. My guides told me the outcomes of each choice, and once I got there, I understood everything. Every choice and regret in my life made sense. There was no judgment, just an all-knowing that my life was planned for learning, and I was doing it right. I didn't feel sad about not going back because I knew my family had chosen and planned that as well. They showed me what my life would be if I did go back, writing books, speaking to important people about the gift of learning. They also warned that the first 18 months, especially the first 6 or 8, would be the hardest time I had ever lived. Despite not having an easy life, I felt wonderful there, detached from the hardships. I didn't realize what it would feel like to be completely paralyzed and unable to talk. Even with my body paralyzed, I couldn't eat, drink, or go to the bathroom, but I didn't feel pressured to choose one way or another. I had the freedom to explore options and determine what would be most comfortable for me. There was a guiding energy of God, not a visual representation, but more of an energy. Telepathy replaced words, you just knew everything. Time felt extended, like 50 years, although it was only minutes. I was in the helicopter until I landed in the next hospital, experiencing a grand mal seizure due to brain swelling. My guide explained that if I were to die, I would have this seizure, and they would attempt resuscitation, leading to a back-and-forth scenario until I would actually die at 12:22 on December 23rd. That was my physical time frame. I was still alive but not attached to my body. I was on the other side. And when I finally made the decision that I'm going to come back, again, nobody pressured me. They just showed me my past, present, and future with either choice. I decided to come back, and in the instant I made the decision, I was out of the garden, and that was it. And I'm like, what? But I didn't go back to my body. I went to this, I want to say a light-filled waiting room, but it wasn't a waiting room. It was just this light-filled, all-encompassing area where then I could just watch me. I could kind of see my family still, but my soul was back connected with my body. And I got to make the decision whether or not I wanted to be in my body with the seizure because they can be really painful, and I didn't want to. So I got to stand and watch. I could see my husband, and when the seizure happened, I was in the hospital. I started sneezing, and grand mal seizures look really scary, and it took a long time for it to stop. And so I watched that happen, and as soon as the seizing stopped, your body goes into, almost like a comatose state. You fall asleep really deeply, and that's when I joined back to my body. I was in the light-filled waiting room, and then I wasn't, and I was fully in my body. And that was it was kind of blackness and pain, I think. And so, then it was a waiting game. The The doctor came in and said, we brought her here for brain surgery, but after seeing the MRI, the brain surgery is not going to help her. The damage is too extensive. We could maybe go in and take the blood clot from the small stroke, but there's a huge chance, like 70+% chance, that doing that will cause a stroke on the other side of her brain, and she'll die anyway. And miraculously, I didn't die in that first 24 hours. So they moved me from the ICU, so over the next couple of days, and the neurologists and the doctors all said, this is her, this is going to be her life. She's going to need continuous care. I had a catheter, I couldn't eat, I was being fed through my nose down a tube, and it was horrible. I couldn't walk, I couldn't go to the bathroom, I couldn't turn over to not get bed sores. And they were very realistic that, I'll probably be in the hospital for a long time, try to get some rehab or move me to a rehab facility to try to get something, but more than likely, this is going to be her forever. And then hour after hour, I started stalking them, and on, I think, December 27th, I walked for the first time, walked to the bathroom. Going to the other side, I would like to say that was the most exciting time in my life because I've never felt more peaceful or more wonderful or more grounded or more belonging. I just want to let people know that we get to choose what we learn. And we come here to learn. On the other side, everything is love, there is nothing else. So, in my view and what I've seen, there's no hell, there's no punishment, there's no judgment. So the only thing that happens there is love. We come here to experience everything else. So the reason we're here is to learn. Your human self doesn't choose, that's chosen before you come here. And we get to choose exactly how we learn and how we experience our lives. The learning and where we focus that learning is what makes us move forward. So it's not punishment, it's not, God or your guides on the other side saying, oh, hi, here you go, have this, you suck, have fun trying to walk through that. No, it's your guides and God and everyone you love saying, we know you are strong enough to walk through this life. We're gonna walk beside you as you learn these lessons. If you ignore the lessons, they'll keep throwing them at you. So try to focus on what the lessons are. That's why we're here. We are here to learn. Thank you.